I'm Effie and this is What Effie Reads. So you clicked on this video because you want to know how you can read more books. And I just want to start off by saying it doesn't matter how many books you read. You could read one every few years, you can read one every day. You're still a reader, you're still reading. That's great. And I think before I get into things, I just want you to take a second, pause this video and think to yourself why it is you want to read more books. Okay, have you sort of had that talk with yourself? So at the point that I am recording this video, I have read 168 books. It could be a little bit more. I'm really bad at keeping track of my books, but I've read 168 books since the start of 2021. But I want you to bear in mind that I was on furlough for the first 3.5 months of the year, so I had a lot of free time. I wasn't working, and this is kind of the first point I want to make. Not to go on furlough. I mean, if you can and it's going to help your mental health, but that's not my first tip. Just stop working. No, my first tip is that dedicate time to it. So a large part of the reason that I get through so many books is because it's all I do. Well, so I have a job and, I have a very minimal social life, but I don't really watch much in the way of TV or films. I do game a little bit, but again, it's not what I really do. So the vast majority of my free time is dedicated to reading. So that's kind of the first thing, is if you really want to read more books, it sounds really obvious, but dedicate more time. Like, I work night shifts, so my shift pattern things won't match up to probably the vast majority of you. But say you work 9 to 5 and you're not really a morning person, so you can't really read before you go into work. But say you get home at 7 in the evening and say you have tea straight away, so you're all done with tea, etc. by about 8:30, and then you go to bed at midnight. You've then got 3.5 hours that you could just sit down and read. Now, doesn't that sound like you could get through a lot of books? But it's whether you want to dedicate the time, because if you're going to dedicate the time and not get enjoyment from other things, then is it worth it? I should also point out that I'm a slow reader, and when I say I'm a slow reader, I'm not exaggerating. Like, I did one of these online test your reading speed tests, and on one of them I got 186 words per minute. On a different one I got 208 words per minute, so that is really quite a slow reader. So bear in mind that, that's my reading speed. And last month I didn't have any days where I wasn't in work, and I got through 30 books in a month. So, I was in work and I still got through 30 books. So it is definitely doable, but it is about dedicating time. I mean, the other thing is to kind of identify times that you can carve out for reading. So if you don't want to dedicate your whole free time at home to reading like I do, because I am a crazy bookworm, then think about, is there points in your day where you could fill it up with reading. So for me, I've got a 40-minute commute each way with work, and I don't drive, so I will get on a bus, and for those 40 minutes in each direction, I will just read. So that's, that's an hour and 20 minutes where if I wasn't reading, what would I be doing? Like playing on my phone, just staring out the window. So that's a good chunk of time that I get to devote to reading. The other thing, well, the next couple of tips, it really depends on if you gel with audiobooks, and that is going to be a big thing. Like if you don't gel with taking books in as audio, then my tips may not be for you. But if you can put on audiobooks, then you can get through a lot more books as well. So for me, I can't sit still and listen to an audiobook. I just don't take it in. I start switching off, and then there's no point me listening to an audiobook. But I can put it on whilst I'm doing housework, whilst I'm making thumbnails. Like there's a lot of points that I can kind of go, oh yeah, I could pop an audiobook on here. So that's another great way to consume more books. And then the one that I'm sure people that have done this video have pointed out, but the one that gets me is using Kindle's text-to-speech facility. It's a real game changer for me, and I will pop a clip in here of how to use it. Okay, so I've got the Kindle Fire 8 Plus or something, but it works fairly similarly with like other Kindle Fires. So what you need to do to enable text-to-speech is fairly simple. So you go to the AA menu, and then it will usually come up to font first. And then you go to more, and it's literally a case of toggling on and off for text to speech. And then once you've got that activated, you see it has that at the bottom, and you just press play. The nurse shrieked as he hit the floor. He was staring at Tara. And you can change the speed by just tapping on that dial. And it wasn't doing this for me the other night, but often if you highlight, for some reason it's not working in this one, but let me come out of this one and go into a book that I know it does work for. Let's go to Survive the Night, because it was working in this one the other day. Okay, I'm not sure why it's not liking it now, but usually you can highlight and then play will come up there. But as I say, for whatever reason it's not working right now. But that's fine, because you could just do that. There you go. And that is how you use the text-to-speech facility on your Kindle. Essentially, it just means that I can keep, it pushes me through the book. So I'm not kind of going back on myself and backtracking and flicking. It's keeping me constantly moving through the book. And I think that's something that you often see in tips on how to read more, is that your eyes will keep trying to track back. So if you've got something like an audiobook or the text-to-speech pushing you through, you're not gonna be doing that, tracking back. And it's actually really surprising how quickly you can have audio playing and still comprehend everything you're listening to. And that's another thing as well, if you're listening to an audiobook, don't be afraid to turn up the speed. I used to, no matter what, listen to things on 1x speed, and now I rarely listen at 1x speed. In fact, I recently listened to Sabriel and the sequels and comfortably listened to it on 2x speed all the way through, and you wouldn't have realized it was on 2x speed unless you knew. And like some apps you can go really fast, like I think Audible you can go up to like 3.5 4x speed, but the likes of Overdrive I could only get up to 2x speed. So it's worth kind of playing around with speed constantly, because you will find that if you have to switch from app to app and the speed can't go as fast as you're used to, it will be rather uncomfortable to listen to. And then kind of sort of related to that, like the whole like backtracking, is if you're reading a physical book, run your finger along underneath and try and run it a little bit faster than you would comfortably read. And again, it just pushes you through and encourages you to read just that hair quicker. The next tip I'm going to really quickly touch on, because it's not a tip that I stick by, because it's something I enjoy, and it's try to cut out your sub-vocalization. So it's when you're reading a book, like you say the words to yourself in your head, and that is something I enjoy whilst I'm reading. I don't want to cut out my sub-vocalization, but it will make it quicker, because you know, if you need to be able to say the words, you can only go so fast. And I just want to kind of close out this video by saying, at the end of the day, if the reason that you like to read is for enjoyment, keep that in mind, because if increasing your reading speed is actually decreasing your enjoyment, is it worth reading more? And until next time, bye!